Good morning, everyone. It's Laura Husband here from Hairdressers International, and we're here for a session on freehand face frames, which is supported by L'Oréal Professionnel Paris. And I'm going to be joined by the awesome Harriet Stokes, who is a freelance hairdresser and L'Oréal Professionnel Paris guest artist. And she's going to be focusing on freehand balayage this morning. And we'll be looking at the lift that your clients want with the perfect placement. And she's going to be demoing how to do this on a lovely dolly head called Sally, and answering any burning questions related to face framing and balayage that you might have. And this session is supported by L'Oréal Professionnel Paris. So for more information about how you can use L'Oréal Professionnel Paris's two-step French balayage technique and the Blonde Studio range to create freehand face frames for your clients when you go back to the salon, you can go to l'orealprofessionnel.co.uk/French-balayage- Blonde-Studio, but we've got all of that in the comments for you, so you don't have to just remember what I've just said out loud for you there. So thank you so much, Harriet, for joining us today. Oh, it's great to have you with us, and you've got your lovely dolly head there, Sally, to show us some face framing techniques, haven't you?
I love that you're calling her Sally. Really making her part of this.
She's part of the live, most definitely.
It's my temper at the moment. So good morning, everyone. I'm Harriet Stokes, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Laura, for a lovely intro. So I am going to spend the next kind of half an hour chatting to everyone about freehand balayage, but the focal point being on face frames. So I want to kind of talk to you about what I'm planning on doing going back into the salon, and how I'm going to be tackling those quick services to get in as many clients as I can. So if anybody has any questions over the next half an hour, please do send them in. No question's a silly question, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. So I'm here today on behalf of L'Oréal Professionnel. I'm a guest artist for 2021, which is super exciting. And over the last 5 years, I have been using L'Oréal Professionnel, and in particular the freehand powder has been my go-to product for my freehand balayage. Now they've recently brought out a new product, their Blonde Studio Clay, which I'll be using today. Now I am a creature of habit, so for me this was, I don't really like change, I'll kind of say that, but I have been testing this product at home and playing with it quite a lot, and the results that I've been seeing I am in love with, so I can't wait to get into the salon and do that on my clients. So over here we obviously have Sally with us, and I am going to be showing you on this side of her head how I would approach her face frame and make it a bit more of a quicker service. So over here we already have a side that has been done, which you can see. Hopefully the lighting's okay. If you can't see, please let me know. So this has...
Gorgeous, Harriet.
You're loving it?
Yeah, absolutely loving it. Sally's looking beautiful.
Banging, isn't she?
She really is.
I, through here, have gone for a bit more of a dramatic placement with this face frame. And I think this would be good heading back into the salon. Obviously, clients haven't had their hair done for nearly 4 months, some people longer. So I think having that dramatic lightness around the front will make them feel a whole lot different. So let's have a little look at what we're doing over here. So to begin with, mixing your product is super, super, super important. Anybody that's worked with freehand bleaches before know that consistency is key, and the way that you mix your product is going to help benefit the lift that you'll get. So with the new Blonde Studio clay lightener, the way that you want to be mixing this is, I tend to go for less product to begin with, use that, and then I mix up fresh. Instead of mixing loads and loads of product to begin, to start with, it can just sit in the bowl and it weakens over time. So I like to go with 30 grams, and then I am mixing in 1 to 1.5 ratio with 40 volt. Now 40 volt is my preferred peroxide with any freehand application. With it being an open air technique, this for me is going to get the most lift that we can. So when mixing this in, you are going to be using a whisk, and the best way to do this is kind of like folding the product in on itself. If you go too fast and you're like really going for it, you're going to let too much oxygen into this color and it's going to weaken it down. Okay, so
it's a bit like a whipped cream kind of consistency.
It does, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah, looks like you could eat that.
I wouldn't recommend it.
No, you wouldn't do that.
But the best way to kind of know if the consistency is right is you're going to hold your bowl upside down and hope that it stays inside. If it's too runny and it falls out, then the consistency is not quite there. But the more that you work with those products, the more you'll understand what consistency you're looking for. But compared to the original freehand powder, this is so much easier to mix. And as a freelance hairdresser where time is everything, that I'm really excited about for in the salon, being able to like whip it up real quick without having lots of powder flying everywhere.
And Harriet, for those that are tuning in and will be opening in Scotland from the 5th of April and in England from the 12th of April, which is all very exciting, when is the new L'Oréal Professionnel Paris Blonde Studio clay available from?
From March, so it should be coming out. It should be out now, actually
Perfect.
from April, I believe. So we obviously got it a little bit earlier, so we could get our hands on it and play with it.
And we're on the 1st of April today now, aren't we? So it can be. So people tuning in can start using it from reopening. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, which is really, really exciting. So what I'm going to be doing is, for her face frame, we are going to come in and split at her recession back, kind of above ear. And we're going to get this hair out of the way and focus on this a little bit later on. Then we are going to be working from her recession down to her ear. And we're going to take a nice kind of, now the hairlines on these dolls are ridiculously thick. And we do know that on real humans, they're definitely not as thick as this. So what you're wanting to do is get a section that is a good size. If it's too thin, the products will kind of fall through. So you want to have a section that is a little bit on the thicker side, so you can kind of still see through it, but it's not as fine, so the product doesn't go through. And what we're going to do is going to focus on making this really light around her front, so that you get this pop of lightness like you have here.
Yeah.
All right, so first things first, I'm going to take a balayage board and I'm going to place some colour onto this. Now, this is the reason that I do this is to help stay neat and tidy. I wasn't always a neat colourist. So anything that helps these days is great. So let's have a look at what we're going to do. So then we're going to take our balayage brush and we're going to load some product just onto the end. So not too much product. And the key here is nice tight tension on this section so that you don't get any sag. If it's kind of falling down, you're then not going to be able to paint this surface like you need to. Now, the trick with freehand balayage is to surface paint the hair. So what we're aiming to do here is paint on this side. And then when we pull this section down, it's going to be dark behind. Now, the reason that we do this is the surface that you've painted here is going to look blonder with the depth that's left behind. So that dark hair on the other side is really key for making that lightness pop. But it's also how it's going to stay nice and soft and natural. Okay, any questions for anyone so far? Are we all good?
In terms of what you're using, so is there a reason why you use that particular brush with the board, Harriet? Have you tried different techniques and is that just what works best for you?
Otherwise, yeah. A variation of brushes. There are the angle brushes from L'Oréal, which have a slight point on them. I have always preferred working with something that's a little bit straighter on rather than having a little point. But for me, it's having a brush that has softer bristles help that product go on nice and smoothly. Okay, so nice tight tension through here. We're then going to load the product through the center. Now, the reason that we're starting lower down is that you can get a better distribution of products as you move up towards the top. So you are going to have less products as you move towards the face near her temple. And you're going to keep readjusting this and grabbing your section. Now, for me, freehand face frames are one of my favorite things to do. And the reason I kind of chose this today as well is because when I teach freehand, this is the bit that scares people the most. So it can be quite scary, But if we take that fear away, I'm sure you would love it. And key thing being like practice, 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 and it just becomes second nature. So again, nice tight tension.
In terms of your kind of from a business point of view, Harriet, how do you sell the face framing technique to clients? Is it an add-on service, or do you do it as part of what you're doing for them in terms of their colour?
So I have actually just updated all my service menu actually. That's going live today for my clients to start booking. And I've restructured it all. So my balayage service is now there's quite a lot of different ones available, but with freehand balayage in particular, there's a transformation price, which is a larger service with a 2-hour application time, or an hour and a half. And that is for people that are new and want to have a complete change. And for me, that service is everything. Then there's a middle ground service, which is just a balayage and tone. And that again is kind of, once you have balayage and you want to have the whole thing refreshed. And then this next service that I'm starting to offer is face frame refresh. And that is just the face frame area. And that will be kind of in between like big appointments if they want to come in and just have that front touched up. I think it's really important for clients to have that lightness. Sorry, that's my laptop. So it's really important to have that lightness around the front for them to feel like they've got something going on. So another service that I'll be adding on as well, which is a new one, is like a package of a bespoke toner, blow dry and styling. And I think as well, like that's quite important to get clients back in, just to have that toner refresh as well, because it does fade off. And it can be quite warm. Like balayage in general is a warm technique, but having that package available so clients can go, okay, I'll come in for that, and making it part of their routine. That's the kind of direction I'm going to take my clients in coming out of this lockdown. So let's have a little look at where we're at now. So you can see, let me just take that nice and tight again. So you can see through here, we are a lot lighter in products down here. It's not lighter, heavier in products down here. And as we get towards the front, it eases off slightly. Now, the key thing with freehand product and freehand placement is wherever it's whiter, it's lighter. So down here, we're going to get all this gorgeous lift, and it's going to get a little bit softer towards the face frame. Unless you want to make it a little bit more detailed, you can take a little bit more product and do a bit more detailing through this front area. I'm going to show you in just a second what it looks like behind, so you can see that in there, can't you? Okay, so when I pull this section down, you'll now see that if I twist her, there's nothing inside. Okay, so this dark area is what's going to make this stand out. Okay, right. But we're not going to leave it completely like this. We are now going to do a little bit of detailing on this side as well. Let's get the right angle for you all. It's so weird teaching on camera. It's like balayage and upside down. So what I'm doing down here is coming up the side towards her face. So you've got to imagine as well how this would look if this was blow dried straight. So you're going to have a big pop of lightness through here. We also need to take into account how this would look when this is styled straight down. So we're going to put a little bit of lightness through these ends. Coming down into an angle, and then where I'm putting more products on the ends, it means they're going to pop a lot more. Okay, then I'm going to take a little bit of cotton wool and we're going to place that and hook her hair around.
Brilliant.
All right, so if you want to make this much chunkier placement, you can do another section directly behind. So I normally on clients would go for another section directly behind, just to really build up that lightness. Although this looks really dramatic and quite kind of gutsy, it is still super, super soft. So it's not kind of, it's not, I don't know, it's not as harsh as you think it is with the way it looks when it's being painted on. Right, okay, so again, nice tight tension. Now, one key thing that I want you to notice here is when I'm applying this product, I am putting it onto the hair and pulling it away, coming back up and down. So it's a motion like this, but because I do it quite fast, it looks like I'm going up and down on the hair.
So you're going in one direction, Harriet?
Yes, so just painting down. So instead of painting up the hair. Now, everyone's different. I do know there's lots of different balayage, what would I call them? Balayage artists that like to kind of go up the hair against the grain. And I kind of find that does create a little bit of backcombing, which I don't want to have. So personal preference is painting down. Now that can be different for everyone. It's what you feel comfortable with.
And just to remind us, we've had a question from Steve. Are you using a special kinds of lightener and volume or clay lightener?
Hi, Steve. So I'm using the L'Oréal Professionnel Blonde Studio Clay Lightener, which is a new product that's just on its way out. So you get 7 levels of lift with this. If you're familiar with L'Oréal products, this is kind of replacing their L'Oréal Freehand bleach, which was 6 levels of lift. So you're gaining a level of lift, and it's ammonia free and odor free. And the consistency is amazing, which is really, really important for this technique. I'm pairing this with 40 volt peroxide of choice is 40 volt, because bearing in mind this technique is open air. I'm not going to be processing this in foil. With the new bleach you can, but for myself I prefer to do this open air and get a really, really soft natural lift.
Do you have any tips for getting that perfect blend, Harriet?
Yes, absolutely. Give me 1 second and I will come through onto the next section and show you. Perfect. So with freehand balayage, it's all about how you're painting onto the hair. So however it's looking when it's on and processing is how it's going to look once it's done. So going to again pop another piece of cotton and hook that round. And you can see on this side, I've come through and again, taking the edge higher towards her face. So if you can imagine how it's going to look when it's dry, you're going to be pushing that lightness towards her face, and this dark is coming down an angle, and it's going to help accentuate that kind of frame around there. Okay, so give my hands a little wipe. This new powder as well, this new clay lightener, is definitely less messy than the one before, because it was like you'd mix it and go poof, like everywhere. And it looked like I'd been on a building site when I was done with my client.
Oh, brilliant.
So let's drop this hair down behind. Now, I am focusing mainly on face frames, but if you were going to be popping some colour in behind, then we could totally come behind here and put a little section in just behind, leaving this depth next to that face frame, which again is going to help make it pop. But I'm going to show you on here how I would be creating that perfect blend to with my application. Okay, so again, take a bit more product, pop it onto the board. Another reason that I'm using this board is it stops the brush that I'm painting with getting super, super messy. So again, you're in more control and not as messy as it could be. All right, so this is gonna be slightly different to how we've been doing the face frame. The face frame has been like a whole surface paint to get lots of lift. If you're wanting to make something a little bit more ribboned in the hair and have like, if you imagine this piece here, you'd have like a little bit of sun-kissed ribbon coming down into lighter ends. This is how you would tackle that. So I'm going to take some product on the tip of your brush again, like this. So you're in more control. And we're going to start midway down and come up towards the top. Now, starting on the edge, this is where I want to have most of this lightness. So it is like a ribbon in the hair. So I'm going to build this up. And you can, at this point, put another one in the other side. Again, kind of placing that color where I want it to be on my brush. That's going to help with your placement. and then coming over to your next side. Now, one thing you'll notice I do is I use my finger and that's my finger and that's my thumb, and I kind of glide down the sides of the hair. This still needs to be dark underneath. So when you lift this up, we still need that depth behind there, because that's going to then help make the blonde on top pop. But by gliding my thumb and finger on the surface, it just keeps everything nice and smooth.
Brilliant. We've had a question which I think I can probably answer for you, Harriet. How many levels of lift is the clay lightener? It's 7, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is 7 levels. And you can also use this product in foil as well. So I'm a creature of habit and I love open air techniques, but it can be used in foil, which is really, really exciting.
That's a great point, actually, Harriet, because Amy has asked, in terms of pricing, is this service similar to full foils?
So glad you asked. If I was painting on her hair like this and then putting foils in, the only thing that's different is that you are putting foil in. So how long it takes me to paint is still the same. It's just the fact that I'm putting a foil around. I will answer that in 1 second. We're just going to lift this up. Okay, so because I want the ends to pop, I want to have some on the ends, but you can see here that doesn't look very delightful, does it? So what we're going to do is give this a little rub and just blend that a little bit more behind. So that's definitely okay now. But having that lightness on the ends is going to give it more of a pop. So back to the question about foil. So what I'm doing now with my clients is I went freelance July last year, when we came out of that first lockdown, and I didn't really know, how to do my pricing. I kept it the same as where I was previously, although I went to work in Hunter Collective, where I am now, really gorgeous co-working space in London. I went from working with 4 clients at once, being like double, triple booked, to working one-on-one with clients, which is completely different, but also means that, time is very precious, and, it's got to reflect in your pricing. So what I've done over the last couple of weeks is redone my whole service menu. And there's definitely a place for foil balayage, and I have kind of separated my menu. So there's a freehand balayage service, and then there's a foil balayage service, but it's no longer called balayage, it's more lived in color, because that'll be focusing more on like highlight techniques to achieve those really gorgeous like beachy blondes. So they are priced different as well, because if you think like with this service, we're painting on the hair, and the way that you paint on the hair is how the blend is going to be. So it's all down in application here. So when it comes to toning, this is why L'Oréal call this a 2-step balayage process, which is, the application, then the tone, and there's only one toner. But with a kind of lived-in color look, that's going to need a bespoke toner. Instead of just being one toner that takes like 10 minutes of the backwash, because you're lightening all the way up to the top, you're going to need to like come back down with a toner into something else. And that's where I was losing time and losing money previously. We're just not charging correctly, because they are different services now. And I think over the last couple of years, like lived-in colors become a real big thing, and everyone's still kind of charging one price for balayage when there's so many different ways to do it. God, I can like really go off subject, can't I? So we have another section. So you would have seen what I was doing there. So we're now working to her parting, and I'm taking a straight section across from her parting to her recession. Again, nice kind of section size, not too thick, not too thin. Can you see this okay in here? Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so nice tight tension. If I was doing this on a client, let's pretend you're the mirror, I'm stood behind her. You can do it this way and check in the mirror at how your product placement is, or I sometimes like to come in front of them, but at the side, and then paint this way. Now, what's best for camera? Probably, I'm not in the way here, am I?
No, I think we can still, we can still see. Yeah.
So same sort of principles, that you're going to come most of your products into the middle here and loading your product into the center of the hair and then coming down towards her face frame. her face frame towards her face.
We know what you mean, Harriet.
And there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can full on surface paint like we did previously, or you can make this more detailed. So the way that you would do that would be coming down these sides and making this where it's going to be more detailed. Remember, where you put most of your light, like where it's light, where it's whiter, it's lighter. So you are going to get more lift running down this side here compared to in here where it's not as heavy placement. So same thing, you can come down this side here. Now this kind of detailing around the front also kind of depends on how the client wears her hair. So in her consultation, I'll be chatting to her about how she styles it most days. Does she wear it up? Is she wearing it in a ponytail? And all these things will contribute into the placement that I choose. Now, if this client is wearing her hair back a lot and you have full surface painted to her skin like we did before, then when she wears it back, it is going to be really blonde. So how is the rest of the color looking? And does she want to be that blonde where you wear it when she wears it in a ponytail? So you've got to consider these things. If she doesn't, and I want to say a bit more natural, then I probably would try and leave a little bit of depth in here. This also means as well, when it grows out, it's not as rooty around the front. Okay, so you could come down.
Had another great question, Harriet.
Tell me.
This is from Joe. How would you explain to clients when they don't understand the difference between foil and freehand, and how would you choose which surface a specific client will need?
So I think it comes down to what their desired result is and what they want out of their hair. So a lived-in colour with foil is going to be a much bigger service to begin with, but you can get more lightness because you're using foil. So that is kind of something I'd be considering, is how light do they want to be, how much blonde they want in there, and also how frequently do they want to come into the salon. So when kind of what I like to do with my clients is ask them to bring in references of things they like and things they don't like. So I'm going to be contacting all my clients today, and in that email going out to them, it will say, when you come back to me, I want to see visuals of what you like and don't like, and it's going to help me decide on what you need for your hair. Another thing with changing my whole service is that the whole reason I've changed it all is because my pricing was changing, but I didn't want my clients to think that the service that they've always had has now just gone up quite a bit and them to be confused. So I've renamed everything, and on my service menu there's an explanation on what this look is and what kind of client this is for and who it's perfect for. So hopefully when they go on my website, they'll be able to see that, and that will help them to kind of understand which color service they need. But it can be hard with like trying to decide which route to take the client down. But freehand isn't for everyone. This definitely is a much softer placement compared to like a foil balayage. Okay, so you can see around here we've got a nice even consistency on the surface, and then we have a little bit of pockets of depth in here. Now these are going to help soften this when it grows out.
We did have a question, Harriet, which I think is relating to this. Fatima said, where is the start point? I'm guessing she's asking, where's the start point of you applying the colour?
So the start point's the middle. I always like to apply my colour in the middle. So I've got lots of products there, and then there's less products as I work towards the top of that section. I'll show you again in just a second. So now we've got this on here. You can see there's not as much product on these ends, but don't worry too much because that's where I've been holding it. I will come to that as my final detail. But where this is nice and iced here, this is how you want it to look. So where it's whiter, it's going to be lighter, okay? We're then going to take a cotton wool, pop that and hook it underneath. And then you're going to do some detailing again, because if you left this section like that, it wouldn't look too great when it was dry. So you want to do some more detailing, and obviously this is going to be, if you've got to think about how it's going to be styled and blow dried and how it will look on both sides. So I'm going to come through and take some lightness up her sides.
Just while you're doing that, Harriet, is the foil development quicker than the freehand? That's a question from Anna.
Foil development?
Yeah.
Development time?
Yeah, development time. Is that quicker than freehand?
No, it just depends on what you're doing, like what look you're trying to go for. The best way to describe freehand balayage to clients is it's like a sun-kissed, natural enhancement to your natural colour, and results tend to be warmer. So with freehand, I process for up to 50 minutes. With my foil techniques, again, that just depends on what base I'm working on, what desired result they want, and what the condition's like. But for me, leaving that in foil, constantly checking elasticity of the hair and how that condition is. So one can be quicker than the other, but it all depends on what base you're working on. Generally, foil appears to be quicker because it's been heated up by the foil. Okay, so coming on to this next section behind, again, I'm going to take another one, and there's a couple of ways that you can do this section. If you want to have it super bright and poppy, like this side, where you can see literally like all of this section is a lot a lot lighter. I wish you could see. I think it's the ring light thrown off, but you can see it's quite chunky in here. Yeah. So how I've created that is by doing 2 sections back to back behind. That needs to be a little bit thicker. Is everybody excited to get back to work? I feel like it's now, like I'm like, oh, it's happening, it's coming.
Yeah, do let us know how you're feeling about going back to work. Everyone is tuning in, and we've had a question from Yvonne which I can just quickly answer. She's asked can this recording be sent out to her, but I can let you know, Yvonne, you can watch this back on Facebook as much as you like. We'll also be putting it up on our IGTV, and it will be on our YouTube channel as well, so there'll be multiple places that you can watch this tutorial by Harriet back to your heart's content.
I don't think I'm on YouTube.
Oh, there you go. So you'll find, well, you will be after this, Harriet. You'll have this video will be on HJ's YouTube channel.
All right. So I feel like I've been teaching so much in this lockdown that I haven't stopped yet and had chance to kind of think about going back. This is my last job demonstrating and teaching, and I'm going to take like a week or something off before the salons reopen. I haven't started booking clients yet either. I'm doing it today. It's today's to-do list.
They'll be ready and waiting for you, Harriet. I've no doubt.
They're so ready. The emails. You know what? As a freelancer, like it's just me. So it's if that date isn't fully confirmed, like it hasn't fully been confirmed. Like if it changed, then oh my god, the job of changing everyone again would be a pain. So back to the question that we had a second ago. I think was it Rita that asked, or Ria, about what my starting point was.
Oh yeah, it was Fatima. I hope I'm saying your name correctly.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So my starting point generally is, let's put this arm down a second, is going to be in the middle of the hair. So if you're looking at your section like this, the reason that I start in the middle is that most of my product that I'm putting on is loaded there, and then I can work down towards her face with not as much product. So you're in more control, okay? So general rule being where it's lighter, where it's whiter, it's lighter. Okay, so how's that looking? Soft.
Lovely. When working with the foil, this is a question from Leah. When working with the foil, do you paint the same as freehand and then just use the foil to incubate, or do you do a completely different technique?
Both. So it depends on the result you're looking to go for. You can definitely put this in foil, but then with like my foil techniques, that is going to be more of like a highlight placement, and placement's really, really key with that one, because you want to get that real pop of bright color. So they are different. You can do both, and they're both different results. I will be teaching a freehand masterclass, a webinar on the 9th of May with L'Oréal. So that is available to book. I think it's available today actually on the L'Oréal Access website. And I'm even going into all things freehand. So I can look at foil being included in that for sure. And kind of like the whole look rather than just face frames. So that's a 90-minute session. I believe it's either 20 or £30, so it's not too crazy.
Is that a face-to-face session, Harriet, at the studio, or is that a virtual online one?
It's a webinar for L'Oréal. It'll be on L'Oréal Access today to find out more details. So you can see in here again where I'm leaving this depth in here, this darkness. This is going to make it softer, and when it grows out, it's not going to be like a harsh line. Whereas this placement is softer, but then if I was to make it super blonde, this placement wouldn't be as soft growing out, okay? So you can see it goes right up to her root. So same thing applies with, let's just move Sally slightly, taking your cotton wool and popping this directly, there you go, underneath. And then when this is now sat down, we're looking at this side again. So if this blow dried now, this side's completely dark, and you've got all your lightness underneath, but this side is just as important. Now, but when balayage and the rest of the hair, you don't really do both sides, but because of the placement of this and how this is going to be sat afterwards, it's really important to make sure that you are focusing on both sides.
And with these face frames, Harriet, is it a great way to get your clients back in your chair more regularly?
Absolutely, 100%. With your face frames, kind of general rule of thumb, I kind of ask my clients, how do you want this to look? Do you want it to be noticeable? Do you want, and I feel like over maybe like the last 18 months, people have got braver. It's gone from being like soft, sun-kissed placement to being a lot chunkier. Now, when they're chunkier, people need to come back more often. The regrowth is more obvious, but depending on how you paint that. So if this client didn't want to be super high maintenance, then I would be leaving space between her roots and the application. So it wouldn't go all the way up to her root. We'd probably have her starting point about here. But if you want this client to come back sooner and see you sooner, then you can take this all the way up to the top. And that just means it will grow out and she'll notice her natural regrowth a little bit more. It's still quite a soft grow out. Compared to foil, this grows out much softer.
We've had another question asking, are there multiple types of sectioning for freehand? Or does it depend on the desired results?
Depends on desired result. Like general rule of thumb I go by is having like a triangle section, which I'll show you in just a second. There's so many. Let's have a little look back here. So if you were coming to do the hairline, then you would do the same thing. So you can see under here. Can you see under here? Probably not. It's lighting. You can see, no, I think, can you? Probably not.
Yeah, it's not. We can see a little bit.
Perfect. So you do the same sort of thing. If they wear their hair up a lot and they want to have a lot of lightness underneath, the way we approach the front hairline, you can do the same thing through the back as well. But just to answer the question before we kind of round up of different sectioning, there's so many ways that you can do freehand and everyone does it so differently, but the main thing is kind of it's bespoke to each client. So finding the right placement and what works for you as well, painting. But one kind of rule I stick by is taking triangle sections. So you can see here, we have got a flat surface here. And when you pull it up, it comes down into a point just below. And what that does is it helps to create the depth behind your section. So if I painted on her surface down here, the points that we had from our triangle leaves that depth behind, which means when that surface lays flat, the depth underneath is going to help make it pop. So that's the kind of general rule that I go by. But I'll be going through all of that in the seminar on the 9th of May. kind of the whole look and different techniques. But as far as face frame goes, that would be my kind of go-to to create much more of a pop. Now this chick over here is how dark she was before. So same doll. So you can see how this, let's spin her. You can see how this placement that we've just done here is how we've got this much lightness around her front.
Beautiful.
Yes. Any questions before we kind of round up and come to an end on the face frames?
What would you say are the best products for creating face frames and indeed the balayage technique?
Best products. Well, my go-to freehand is the L'Oréal Professional Blonde Studio, and this is their latest bleach that's come out. It's a clay bleach, and the reason that I love using this is the consistency is amazing. And it goes onto the hair really, really nice. But the technology in it as well is that, you know, it can be an open air technique, and it stays wet on the inside. So it dries on the outside, stays wet on the inside, so it continues lifting. But like I was saying before, you can put this in foil, and it will also help get that lift. But for me, it's all about which bleach you're using and applying onto the hair. And then it's down to you and your application on how that result is going to be.
Brilliant. And how do you choose the right toner?
So toners is obviously a really, really important part of the process. So for the chick over here, the chick, Sally, this is, it, like I was saying before, it lifts warmer. So kind of staying on that warm palette is what's going to make it look really, really pretty, instead of trying to fight against that and go for more of an ashy tone. So when toning, I go for L'Oreal Dia Light. Now, for anyone that doesn't really know much about L'Oreal, the Dia Light range is a acidic based toner, which means it is deposit only, and it's really, really good for toning. It's not going to affect the rest of the hair. It's also good for condition. It's going to balance out that pH level in the hair. When it comes to choosing your toner, I like to go for a mixture of warm and cool, to kind of not make it too fake looking. So it's neither too warm or too cool. It's like getting that perfect balance in the middle. So a couple of my favorites would be either 10, I don't know if this comes around the other way, but 10.
We can see those, yeah.
Perfect, or 1032 or 1023. And these are like a soft violet gold. So that would be like a creamier blonde. My general rule of thumb with toning freehand balayage as well is not to go, I tend to tone on a level lighter than what she is, so that it doesn't drop the depth into the hair too much, and then you lose that work. Because the key thing with freehand is that the placement is what it's all about, but it is super, super soft. So you can easily lose that if you overtone, or if you choose the wrong depth to tone on, or again, if you tone too ashy. But the best way for me to explain this to my clients is it is that really sun-kissed, soft placement that's going to enhance their natural colour. And there's a lot of clients for this. I generally do go for a level 7 and above. If they want to be a super blonde, then you can do these techniques and get those results. Like, I'm a natural 8, and you would kind of get this level of blonde. Obviously, it depends on the base you're working with. It's still gorgeous on a really, really dark base as well, but expect it to be warmer.
Brilliant. And Elizabeth has said, would you only use gloss toners for the face framing technique?
I prefer to go towards the Dia Light so that it doesn't affect any of the natural colour that's left in the hair.
Brilliant. And Lisa has asked, can you use colour with this technique as well?
Use colour as in like painting colour? Yeah, absolutely. So I used to freehand a little bit with like high lift tint, and like to create different levels of blonde. So you'd have your freehand to get you a lot lighter, and then you can have a high lift tint in there to create a different tone of blonde. And then I suppose you could do this with a low light as well. But for me, the application is down to the bleach as well, like how that product works as a bleach. So I'd be leaning more towards using the bleach to do this. You can do it with colour, but it would be a slightly different result.
Brilliant. And then Mihaela has said, when you have a client with highlights or balayage already, and they have different shades in the hair, especially now after such a long time when they might have done something naughty at home. If they want to switch for a different style, and they want what you're doing now with the freehand face frames, how would you redo the roots without bleeding, or have a different mix of colours? Which is the best, quickest technique to make lives a bit, her life a bit easier? I guess that's the question.
Am I correct in saying that this is a highlight client wanting to go to balayage?
So she said, when you have a client with highlights or balayage already, but maybe have different shades in the hair.
Right, okay.
And they want to switch to potentially a different style, like what you're doing now. Would you redo the? How do you redo the roots without bleeding?
So it's a hard one. So it depends. Obviously, like, I'm not sure fully what this client looks like.
Yeah.
But for me, I wouldn't be tackling a color correction with freehand. I don't like, for me personally, freehand is gorgeous on a natural base or previously lightened base, but not when there's loads of tint buildup. Like, this product isn't strong enough to get through that and not be super, super warm. So I'd probably go down the route of building their hair up and correcting it with foil first and getting those colors out and getting it to a place where you want it to be. And then in future appointments, you can then take her down the balayage route with freehand. So kind of going around it about that way.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Harriet. And we've also had a question from a fellow freelancer. Joe is asking, do you ask for deposits up front, and how much deposit do you ask for? He's finding that people can cancel last minute, and he loses out on like a whole morning's taking. So how do you secure not losing out when clients cancel?
It is hard. So I'm a bit of a pushover, really. But on my website and my price list, it does say need deposit while making a booking. But most of my clients I've been doing for 4 years, 5 years, and there's that respect level, and they're really, I was going to say really well trained. That sounds really bad. They know how I like to operate, so they don't necessarily pay a deposit. But moving forwards, any new people that come to see me, when I do open up to new clients, it will strictly be a deposit of, say, if the appointment's over £100, maybe like £50 deposit, like whatever the end price is, probably taking half of that, and having a policy in place. But it is hard when you're on your own, because it's just you, so you have to enforce those rules that you've put in place. That's kind of what I've learned in the last few months.
You've got to be the good cop and the bad cop kind of thing.
Isn't it? But I do find having everything in writing will help you. So instead of having if you have these conversations on the phone with your client when making the appointment, I'll reiterate it all in email and send it back to them as a paper trace of everything I've said to them. Especially like with pricing, like it can be difficult when you're charging someone quite a lot for a big service and you feel guilty charging that, or there's miscommunication somewhere. But if it's all set on email and they've seen it and you can both look back at that, then that should hopefully help you.
Great tips there, Harriet. He's also asked, is there do you offer a cancellation? Do you have like a cancellation fee if somebody was to cancel on you at the last minute?
So it's more of like 48-hour notice. Rarely people cancel because it's booked in advance. So it's like people know that they're going to have to come in, else they won't have it for a while. So again, like those clients that I look after have been used to the way that I operate for so long. But definitely when it comes to taking new people on, I think being quite strict with them and really telling them how you operate is, it's hard though, isn't it? Because if someone, like, for example, like has had like a sudden thing that's happened, like something awful's happened, then you feel guilty, don't you? Especially as hairdressers, we're so involved emotionally with people and like such people pleasers. But I think people forget that we are also running a business. So kind of set something and stick to it. So mine's kind of like 48 hours cancellation fee.
Great advice there, Harriet. Thank you. I hope that answers your questions there, Joe. And we're getting to the end of our session now, aren't we, Harriet? So maybe we can have a little good look at Sally's finished look, and the techniques that you use to put it together, kind of like a little quick summary.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so this is Sally. Sally has previously been done on this left-hand side over here. Now, the focal point today was face frames and how to do them quick and to make the client's hair pop, and also what product to use. So over here you can see it's a much chunkier face frame with your lightness and the depth behind. Now, the way that we've approached that over here is to section at your recession back and then focusing on putting 2 sections in around the front. Nice big surface paint, so you're going to get that big pop of lightness, but not forgetting that when you come onto the other side that it also needs some attention, because when it's blow dried straight, that will be on view as well. Now, the products that I was using for this is the L'Oréal Professionnel Blonde Studio Clay. Now, this is their new clay lightener, which is for freehand. You get an extra level of lift compared to their old product. Key points about this: it's ammonia free, the consistency is a dream, and it mixes together really, really well. So with an open air technique like this, it is going to stay wet on the inside to continue getting the lift, and on the outside it will dry, so that if you're putting hair over it, it's not going to bleed onto that hair. So super safe product to use. I pair that with L'Oréal 40 Vol peroxide and a mixing ratio of 1 to 1.5. I find that's the best mixing ratio to get the results that I want. And again, when mixing that, going nice and slow and using a whisk to mix your product. So starting off with less products, mixing it in nice and slow, and then refreshing the products when you need more. So in general, I work on the basis of using 30 grams of bleach to begin with, and then mixing it more as I go along, so it's fresh product and gets the lift that I need. And then finally, with toning, L'Oreal Dialight is my go-to. So within their range, the Dialight family is designed for toning, so it's acidic based, which means it's going to deposit only. It's not going to lift or affect any of her natural colour in the hair, which obviously means it's really beautiful for balayage. And when it comes to toning freehand clients, keeping them on like a perfect balance of warm and cool. So it's not overly warm, then it's not super, super cool, and keeping it on a slightly lighter base so it doesn't drop the depth and then you lose your placement of colour as well.
Amazing, Harriet. This has been fantastic. I think everyone's thoroughly enjoyed this morning's session and seeing Sally's beautiful face framing.
Why it's making me laugh so much?
Oh, it's been brilliant.
Sally, just the whole, here's Sally.
Here's Sally. And it means that Sally will come back to the salon more often as well, doesn't it? Which is a great benefit.
It does. So obviously, like I was saying a second ago, the higher up you take this freehand balayage, the more often they'll be coming back. So if you want that clientele to return sooner, take it higher. But if you do want it to be like a truly lived in colour that is low maintenance, then just colour it slightly away from that route.
Brilliant. And you're giving them a bespoke result, which obviously, you know, they'll be willing to pay for.
100%, absolutely. It is in itself, right? Like the face frame can be a complete separate service. Like come in, just have that done, get your toner refreshed, and you can like have that as a little package. So don't have to have everything done every single time. So it's kind of a middle ground appointment, which is I think it's going to work well.
Most definitely. Well, thank you so much, Harriet. It's been fabulous to have you with us, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. And just remind us of the date you've got that the balayage techniques course with L'Oréal.
It is on Sunday, the 9th of May. I believe it's going to be like a late morning, early afternoon session. You can book that on L'Oréal Access, and it's between £20 to £30. But it's bookable today. But that would be all things balayage, freehand balayage, and kind of like the whole look, not just face frames.
Brilliant. And if you're super excited about the L'Oréal Professionnel Blonde Studio Clay that Harriet has been experimenting with today, you can also go to the L'Oréal Professionnel website to get your hands on that and be using it with your clients when they come back to the salon if you're based in Scotland and England over the next couple of weeks, which is very exciting, isn't it?
It's so exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining us today and for all of your fantastic questions. It's been a great session and we look forward to seeing you all very soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Bye.